just joined this one. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I wanted to start by just acknowledging that Councillor Blackstone is not here this evening. He is excused. And Town Manager Fournier is also excused. And Bill Tappan is in his place. Our first item before we get to public forum is to, I would accept a motion to close our non-public session.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any?
Councilor Brabant?
Aye.
Councilor Lamatina?
Aye.
Councilor White?
Aye.
Councilor Ward?
Aye.
Councilor Conley?
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
And then I would accept a motion to seal the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Brabant?
Aye.
Councilor Lamatina?
Aye.
Councilor White?
Aye.
Councilor Ward?
Aye.
Councilor Conley?
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
And our next item is for public forum. Is there anyone from the public wishing to
Good evening.
If you could just state your name.
Mr. Allen, Woody Point Circle. On my situation, I've gotten some of it maybe worked out, some of it. That's a unique way of what's being asked. It appears it's a little bit more political than I suspected. And when I get a little bit more news, I'll figure out what I want to give up. Usually shut my mouth. And what they want to trade. Being that my wife is of bloodline, the country she comes from. They throw each other in jail every 3 years, so may become that way around here. They were always hoping that she'd end up here after her baptism, and the two places might learn something from each other, considering it's our unsinkable aircraft carrier against China if anything happens in the Pacific. And they are allies of it. There's one thing they wanted to point out. It's called the Humidity Treaty over there, where we're one-on-one in the courts. Courts are treated, any charge here is treated the same way there. There's no difference. It's the only country in the world that we have a humidity treaty where our tax forms, everything is matched. Anything you said here goes there. Unique, it's a unique treaty. They want to use it. Okay, it's a new way of using it. She just might be dressed in railcar uniform for a government. So that can work out. It depends on what I want to say and what I not. I met her. And, yeah, I think I'm going to say how I met her. I went over to the State Department and met her on a torture retreat. 2 weeks in, fell in love with her. I married her. I had some problems in the court over here, medical court, and they told me, you can't miss that. You got to go over there. Ordered me, make sure you go there.
Mr. Allen, you have 30 seconds.
Okay. And so it's different. Okay. Some of these things are being thrown around right now. Especially with the call I got from Boston FBI this morning, forwarding paperwork over to them at Bangkok for me. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Trying to keep you up to date what's going on.
Seeing no other members of the public present, I will close the public forum at 7:07. The next item that we have is the public hearing on ordinance number 3, and it's an ordinance to amend chapter 32, zoning, article 1, and our town planner is here too. Oh, you are doing a presentation.
Can you see the TV? Should we tilt it? I think you can
Yeah.
tilt more towards you.
One of the lights is washing it out completely. Yep, got it. Thank you.
Get it in presentation. Good. Good evening, members of Town Council. My name's Bart McDonough. I'm the plan director, as you may well know. Thank you for this opportunity to allow me to just give a brief rundown of what we've been doing, plan board that is, for the past couple months on accessory dwelling units, and then the ordinance before you. So just a little journey on our for this presentation. We're going to go over, what Newmarket has done in the past and what challenges they've experienced for ADUs. Go over the process that the town goes through for ordinance changes, and then we'll dive into the key provisions of the ordinance, what it's trying to accomplish. Then we'll review the summary of changes of the ordinance, and then any questions and discussions thereafter. So ADUs from a historical context in Newmarket. Actually, the first time it was codified was in 1984, which I found interesting. So it's been in town for a while. I'm sure it's been around, prior to that too. It's just, this is the first time from my research that it pops into the zoning ordinance in Newmarket. And over the years, it's been amended probably 4 or 5 times. And the last update is in 2007. And really that update was just to be in line with this new state statute at that time. So kind of, make sure that we're not outside the boundaries of what the state at that point mandated. As of right now, if an accessory dwelling unit were to be applied for, an applicant for building permit had to go to the zoning board of adjustment for a special exception. And then within that special exception, there's criteria that you meet in order to get approved. So it's not like getting a variance or anything. It's just making sure that certain things are done. But it's kind of an onerous process. Takes up time. Could be from a build-out phase, think of your construction, and also you may require more special expertise like legal counsel or something. So kind of a head burden. And right now, this is a really big challenge for Newmarket the reason why town council planning board went on to this exercise is it only allows for attached dwelling units right now. No existing detached units or ones people propose can be built without a variance, and it's very difficult to get a variance in this case. And there's a lot of people within town that tried and failed. So this is the main reason why planning board and town council came together and say, all right, what can we do to make common sense reforms that can maybe help people out that want to build an accessory building. So exactly that. So challenges that we're trying to solve with this ordinance is increase housing options and production. It'll be an alternative way of doing it. It's, I think we'll give a little more detail later, but from a financing perspective. But I guess what we're trying to see here is where Newmarket is right now experiencing a housing shortage. There's no production at all. You go on, or the selling thereof. If you go on Redfin, Zillow, whatnot, you can't find anything, especially that's affordable. So this is a deft approach to trying to add more inventory. What we're trying to do, right, what we're trying to solve is reduce permitting barriers. We're trying to add property rights. We're trying to reduce barriers to create more housing opportunities. We want to increase our flexibility for our land use. We want to use our existing infrastructures. We don't, a lot of the energy used from a house perspective is when it's being built. So, if we can utilize existing infrastructure, that'd be great. And then we want to create more community and a lot more opportunities for different people in their lives to live in different areas in more community-focused situations. And then we want to decrease the cost burden for homeowners. So, especially in New Hampshire, where property taxes are the main way of revenue. So, this is the process. First, town council requests planning board to review any ordinance change from a zoning perspective. This was done at a joint meeting in 2021 in November, where town council planning board decided that it might be a great opportunity to look at the ADU language, draft language proposed. Research. So during May and August this year, planning board and Department of Community Development worked together to draft some language, and then planning board holds a public hearing on that. And then that was done between September and January of this year and last year. And planning board made their final recommendations on that meeting in January to the town council. And then town council reviews and has its own public hearing, which is where we are right now. And the first reading, as you all know, happened last meeting, and here we are at the public hearing. And then moving forward, town council could either continue it, public hearing, or make their final vote at this meeting. So, what's in the amendments? It deletes and replaces section 234, which is accessory apartments, and it replaces it with new language completely. It also changes the title to accessory dwelling units to make it more consistent throughout the ordinance, because it interchanges languages, and that gets confusing. It adds new language standards for accessory dwelling units, clarifies, adds definitions, and updates the purpose statement, which is, I think, important. Adds property rights by making ADUs a by right use on single-family lots, and ADUs can also be on legally non-conforming lots. So basically, Newmarket is a very old town, so we have a lot of non-conformities in town as well. And this is a way to allow ADUs to exist in different situations, because the zoning throughout the ages has aided these non-conformities. So what we're trying to do is allow for these type of units to exist in many different situations that exist in Newmarket, only on single-family lots. language reduces permitting barriers and time frame for ADUs. It removes the ZBA from the process altogether, and it's only a building permit. With the caveat that if there's any other relief needed, you would have to go to the ZBA. But right now, you just go to the planning department, and if this were to pass, then you apply for a building permit. Allows for all sorts of different ways, detached, attached, and internal conversion. So internal conversion being within your own home. So for instance, finished basement or something, if you want to turn it into an accessory building. And then it prohibits short-term rentals, condo conversions, and you can't build within the floodplain. So kind of what we're trying to accomplish here is that we make sure that these are, we don't disturb neighborhoods with ADUs, and it kind of fits into neighborhoods instead of transforming them. Let's see. So on that note, requires owner occupancy and annual recertification. So we were just talking about this today within the department, and basically it was just a application telling the town that you're still using this building, the ADU, as an ADU. So what we want to avoid is, we want to kind of track them, see where they are, and if they are going to not be used that way, we want to make sure that, the proper process is gone through to make sure that doesn't turn into a dwelling unit.
Doesn't turn into what?
A regular dwelling unit. So for instance, if this ADU were to, the planning board was really worried about is that when people are prospective buyers of a house, they see sometimes realtors, they kind of embellish properties, and they may say it's a 2-unit. So they go into it thinking, oh, I'm buying a 2-unit property, dwelling unit, and that's that. And then it turns out it's an accessory dwelling unit. Completely different things. So, and different processes you need to go through in order to get it approved. If you wanted a 2-unit, it'll be a condo conversion / subdivision, which, in this, whereas an accessory dwelling unit right now, it's an accessory use to the primary dwelling unit. So it's not a separate entity. It's tied to the property and the primary dwelling unit. We reduced the range. Plan board reduced the range from 300 to 200, and add square feet for an ADU, just to allow a little more flexibility on how large these could be or small. And it also creates different standards to allow for the development the ADU to harmonize with the lot, but it's also at the same time kind of allow for some creativity to happen.
Councilor Conley has a question.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm just moving quickly.
Yeah.
When you say that the requirement is for owner occupancy, you mentioned that an ADU is designed to be an accessory to the primary dwelling unit. Can you say a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah. So basically, that it means that the primary dwelling, so the owner of the property must live on site in order to have an ADU. So basically, what that tries to accomplish is absentee landlordism, which has been a problem, and so is also a way. If you're focusing on the person owning the property being there at all times, living there. That's what that tries to accomplish.
Okay.
Whereas, you rent out both units to someone who doesn't own the property.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Another concern of the planning board was stormwater. So they recommended a threshold. If it's exceeded, that the property owner would have to adhere to stormwater standards, which is within the current code. And ordinance allows for incentives for rooftop solar, so 100 square feet. So we want to promote renewable energy, and we thought this might be a good way to do that.
Councilor Ward,
Yep.
did you have a question?
Yeah, just wants to clarify, so if they put on rooftop solar, they get an extra 100 square feet to their ADU before they have to do the stormwater stuff?
Yes, no, so they would get, so the stormwater, circle back to stormwater, so the threshold is 65%, so if the lot, let's say, is 70% impervious surface, but they're using that existing impervious surface, they're not expanding it, they're not beholden to it. It's
Okay.
only when it's expanded.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the rooftop solar is just for the ADU itself. So yeah, I see. If they were to utilize the square footage of the incentive and they go over the threshold, they would have to meet stormwater.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the building footprint itself. And usually these will be on roofs.
Okay.
And then amends the parking standards for different circumstances and maintains the existing stormwater and waste disposal requirements that's in the current zoning. So, yes.
What are the changes to what are the amendments to the parking standards?
It allows for, the language says that it needs, the applicant needs to provide adequate parking for the use. The dwelling unit itself, primary dwelling unit, and the ADU. So it kind of leaves it a little open for that, but they have to demonstrate that it's met. So the idea is going to be different circumstances throughout different towns. We kind of want to allow for that flexibility and not really overburdening some applicants potentially, where they can demonstrate that they have adequate parking already. So we don't want to create a problem maybe that doesn't exist. So we allow the applicant to prove to the town that they have enough. And then through a special use permit, standard right now says that a new parking spot cannot be more than, I believe, 20 feet from an existing dwelling unit, so property, a butter. But through a special use permit, planning board can reduce it to 10 feet, provided some sort of standards are met. So it gives notice to property owners that, hey, there might be closer parking for this new ADU here, and so it allows for butters to come in on that, and also provides planning board with certainties that they're not going to disturb the neighborhood with these new parking spots.
Were there any counts or was anything done to kind of estimate how many detached units would qualify this might apply to?
That's a good question. It's really hard to really quantify. So it's applicable to say over 2,000 single-family homes. However, that's just looking at it from a bird's eye view. I think where it's a lot of people are going to have a hard time with is meeting the storm on the wastewater, so the septic system.
But you didn't do just a rough estimate that this might add 50 units, 20 units, did they do anything like that?
It's hard to say. I mean, I can do over past. I mean, so it does expand it greatly. It could add, if all things being equal, probably around 1,000 if it were built out. But I don't see that happening really quickly. And the reason being, I can talk about this later during the discussion period, just because of financing and also the requirements from DES, Department of Environmental Services, on septic is actually more strict on accessory dwelling units than for a dwelling unit.
I'm going to let him finish the presentation because technically this is the public hearing and we'll have a time to deliberate. Yeah.
Okay.
So, in conclusion, this went through a comprehensive review. Really iterative process, and it was great collaboration between the planning board members and members of the public that participated. It expands property rights, this ordinance, while inserting mindful controls, increases housing choice, and potentially could add to long-term housing options in the town of Newmarket. It simplifies the permitting process, and adds good standards that integrates ADUs into neighborhoods, and incentivizes the repurposing of existing buildings and inclusion of renewable energy systems, and maintains existing stormwater and water and wastewater requirements. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, I will close the public forum at 7:27. And I just need to get my computer's gonna die. Sorry. Thank you. And we'll have an opportunity to ask questions and discuss shortly. Okay. So the next item that we have on our agenda is for the acceptance of minutes, and we have 2 meetings. The first is our February 15th, 2023 work session, and I would accept a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved?
Second.
Were there any changes, any questions? Councilor Lamatina.
Just a minor thing. The minutes make a reference to the attached presentation. That's not there.
Oh.
Do we need that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other changes? Seeing none, if you call the roll, please.
Council Brayback?
Aye.
Council Lamatina?
Aye.
Council White?
Aye.
Council Ward?
Aye.
Council Conley?
Aye.
Council Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
The presentation's in.
Is it in the minute? Sorry, I'm just looking. Oh yeah, it's on mine too.
Yeah, it's in.
Oh, it was just really slow to load. Mine
It
just
was really
opened.
slow to
Yeah,
load. Yeah.
it's in there. Just might have been loading slowly.
Oh, it is there?
Yep.
Yeah. The next item is from our February 15th regular meeting, and I would accept a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved?
Second.
Any changes, any questions? Councilor Lamatina.
Minor one. Stella's last name is McShera, M-C-S-H-E-R-A.
Thank you. Seeing no others, if you could call the roll, please.
Council Brayback?
Aye.
Council Lamatina?
Aye.
Council White?
Aye.
Council Ward?
Aye.
Council Conley?
Aye.
Council Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
And the next item that we have is the town manager's report.
Okay, this is just a reminder that town and school district elections are on, for election is on March 14th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Currently, we have the following councils. If you take a look at your, assuming you have the calendar, you can see who's signed up. And Steve's requesting that if you can sign up, if you haven't already, it would be greatly appreciated. We need a forum at 7 p.m. Next topic, SB 111, clarifying the authority of town council form government. On Tuesday, February 21st, Steve testified before the state senate on Senate Bill 111, introduced by Senator Rebecca Perkins Quokka that clarifies that town councils have the same authorities as city councils. We've run into issues with some attorneys not knowing our unique form of government, and apparently this was well received by the committee. That's nice to know. And then finally, the cable franchise agreement. Legal counsel has provided him with a draft second amendment to the current renewal franchise agreement to add another 10 years to the term. And expiration, so that would make the expiration 11/3/32. After reviewed by the communications manager and the finance director, we'll bring it to the town council for action. That is it.
Any questions? I believe I let Steve know this, but on the election, I'm off from 6 to 7, but then I'll be back so I'll be here for the count. Yeah. Council Ward.
As I say, I'll see if I can take the day off from work and I can be there. So I just forgot to sign up, but I can cover some hours.
Great.
I signed up
Thank
once
you.
I read this.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
It's updated.
Thank you. All right. And the next item that we have are committee reports. Are there any committee reports?
Energy and Environment met, we're scheduled our public hearing on the electric aggregation plan for March 29th.
Great. Any other committee reports? All right. The next item, we have several resolutions and ordinances in the second reading, and the first is ordinance number 3, and then it's an ordinance to amend chapter 32, zoning article 1, and I would accept a motion to approve that ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
And are there any questions at this point or comments for Bart? Any further discussion? It looked like people had some questions. No?
I'll pass.
Councilor Conley.
Could you say a little bit more about extending ADUs to legally non-conforming properties?
Yeah. So what the ordinance attempts to do is allow smaller lots or buildings that are really old that are maybe within the setback to be utilized. So the idea is to utilize as much of the land as possible and allow for opportunities for ADUs to exist as much as possible. That's why that's why the nonconformity section was added, because Newmarket has a lot. I've seen a lot of instances of smaller lots that maybe could add. Maybe the house is in the setback or something, and add an ADU, but you're not really changing the character of it. So the idea is just to allow for these single-family lots that are not expanding their footprint. They're just being converted into one. To do that through a building permit process. So if they wanted to expand or the building to be more non-conforming, you still have to go through the proper channels through the ZBA, or what the ordinance dictates. So again, this is just, as is, if you're just renovating and you find, like a barn is within the setback, and you're renovating the barn, you turn it into an ADU, you're allowed to do that, without going through additional permitting processes, just a building permit. But when you're adding non-conformity, adding one, then you're going to the ZBA for relief.
Thank you.
Councilor White.
Just had a question. It requires speculation on your part, I'm sure. Affordability wise.
Yeah, it's tough. I think the idea is, a smaller footprint would come with a reduced, cost in the sense of renting out. It's really hard right now with supply and demand is off kilter, or reduced supply right now. So the idea is to add more supply. But that also has its challenges as well in town. I just want to note there's one thing that we didn't look at, which maybe we want to in the future, is the impact fees. So ADUs are still subject to impact fees as the ordinance is written. So there's that. But I do agree, we have an issue for affordability. And this is an option right now that we're trying to introduce to the town. I want to say the building of ADUs has not caught up from a financing perspective. You either need equity or cash. Home equity loan or cash to build these. There's no really finance packages right now out there for ADUs because the financial institutions don't really know what to do with ADU. It's not a primary dwelling unit, so it's kind of a risk there. Definitely work. I know there's some people out there looking, to come up with solutions from a affordability standpoint to build these. And I just want to say this: I don't think you're going to see a proliferation of ADUs. I mean, again, they're really expensive to build, based on how much they are. But I think having the option there and allow for other elements to catch up to it, then you might see an increase in them. So I don't know if that answers your question.
I do not have a question. I just want to say thank you so much for working on this, and thank you to the planning board for working on this. I think this is such an important step. We've talked about this since I got on the council, which is not that long ago, but a few years about, if your garage is a foot away from your home, you can't have an apartment upstairs for your in-laws or something. And I think this just makes it much easier for us to have multi-generational living. I appreciate the consideration about parking. There needs to be an accommodation for parking so that we're not worsening the parking situation in town. I just think this is a great next step, and I appreciate all the work that went into it.
Thank you.
I would imagine, to your point before about affordability, I live on Ash Swamp Road and have probably plenty of land to build an ADU, but I have septic, or I don't have town sewer, so and my septic wouldn't support 2 more bedrooms or 1 bedroom. I don't think. So I can see the challenges for homeowners.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. So people, homeowners not on sewer, they definitely will be a challenge. Because DES also, like I said before, they put more stringent standards on accessory dwelling units. Yeah, I agree.
My only other comment, I'm not seeing any others, is just, again, to second what Councilor Baybeck said. I really appreciate the work. I know that this was not an easy task for the planning board or for you, and I watched some of your deliberations, and I thought that the conversation was very thoughtful and really took into account all sorts of different perspectives. I was particularly happy to see you're addressing the stormwater and solar and parking, and it was really something else. What else did I say? Oh, and the fact, I can't read my own writing, and the fact that it's going to be recertified annually, I think is really important. So I appreciate all of those steps, and just want to say thank you. Are there any other comments? I'm seeing none. If you call the roll, please.
Councilor Braybeck?
Aye.
Councilor Lamatina?
Aye.
Councilor White?
Aye.
Councilor Ward?
Aye.
Councilor Conley?
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
next item is Resolution 2022-2023-33, re-adopting the Veterans Optional Tax Credit. And I would accept a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022/2023, readoption of the optional veterans tax credit.
I'll second it.
Is there any, do you have any information to share, Bill, or no? It's okay if the answer is no.
I mean,
It's pretty straightforward, but I just thought I would ask.
no, I really don't. I mean, I heard that it was kind of an exciting topic at different places, but it sounds like it's pretty dull here. So that's good.
Oh. Are there any questions or comments?
Just a question
Sir White.
regarding eligibility. What exactly that is, and I unfortunately tonight don't have my, maybe I do, hold on.
So,
I think I can answer this. If those who served and were honorably discharged,
Okay,
and there's an RSA that describes all that.
all right.
so as it
This
reads,
is not the one then.
as it
It's the
reads,
other.
it says to include not only veterans who have been honorably discharged, but also those who have served at least 4 years and are continuing in service in the armed forces.
Categorizing that together, I'm sorry, categorizing those together.
Yeah.
I do have a comment on that, that someone that's still serving is not considered a veteran.
They have served at
Because-
least 4 years and are continuing in service in the armed forces.
But they're not a veteran. A veteran is someone who has been successfully discharged under honorable or under honorable conditions. If someone is still in the service, they can still be discharged from it with a less than honorable discharge. So they have not been discharged, so they are not therefore a veteran.
Tony?
And just,
Counselor Brayback?
Yes. I just think it's worth noting the next sentence of that, which says, if this does not pass, the optional veterans tax credit will no longer be in effect, which is the $500 tax credit, and the standard veterans tax credit of $50 would apply.
and it,
Counselor Conley?
and just to possibly clarify, it's the title is the optional veterans tax credit, but the extension includes both veterans who have been honorably discharged, but also those, it's not specifying veterans, it's also saying also people who have served at least 4 years and are continuing service in the armed forces. So I don't think the intent is to categorize this second, these people who have served at least 4 years and are continuing service as veterans. But it is attempting to extend the veterans tax credit to include this wider group of people.
Which, in my opinion, can't be included.
So noted. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, oh,
I would just say if there's any, I remind everyone that if there's confusion and if we don't feel confident that we have enough information to move forward, we can table this until the town manager is here. So I would hate for us to vote on something in a certain way feeling confused. So if anyone's feeling confused, I would encourage them to move that we postpone it.
we can do that.
I'm comfortable with that, yeah.
I'm not making that motion, I'm just making a reminder.
I will move to table.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that? So this would be to move, or this would be to table the resolution. That's what we're voting on right now. If you could call the roll, please.
Counselor Brayback?
Aye.
Counselor Lavatina?
Aye.
Counselor White?
Aye.
Counselor Ward?
Aye.
Counselor Conley?
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1.
So our next item is almost, Sean, it's Resolution 2022-2023-34, adopting the All Veterans Tax Credit. And I would accept a motion to approve that resolution.
So move.
Second.
And is there any discussion on Resolution 2022-2023-34?
I guess I'm confused a little bit about this one because it doesn't really explain who are the other veterans that were not honorably discharged that are being included. That's not quite clear to me.
Yes,
Please.
So my understanding is that this, and I don't have it in front of me, all I have is some notes, but that the optional tax credit was, aside from these amounts differentials, that there was some debate about whether or not someone was, they were involved in combat, or they were assigned during combat time periods, or they were like Bosnia, so a unit gets sent to Bosnia, but we're not technically at war. So that's, people like that would be considered veterans who are eligible for this, almost like VA benefits. Whereas the discussion was to change that because a lot of veterans were pretty upset about this. Because you could be sent to war at any time. While you're in, hey, it's, the option's there, and you're going regardless. Iraq is a good example of that the first time around. So I think that's what they were trying to do, is kind of smooth that out with veterans who are veterans.
So to make sure
Not just combat
I'm
veterans.
understanding is that it's currently only for combat veterans and they're wanting to
No.
open it to all veterans, or vice versa?
My understanding is that they are opening it to all veterans, period. That originally, when
So that's what we're
discussed,
voting on, is to
wasn't
open
doing
it,
that.
that's what I said, yeah,
Yes.
to open
That
it
is
to
what you said.
non-combat veterans, okay. Sorry.
No,
Counselor
go
White.
ahead.
I
don't
can't,
want
no,
you to-
I waved to you as though I could call on you, and I can't.
Counselor White.
If it's all veterans and it doesn't specify that they are honorably discharged, correct?
Well, it does.
No, it does.
Oh, it does?
It's honored.
Again, I
Sorry,
apologize.
yeah.
It's
Those-
written in a
those
confusing way.
served and were honorably discharged
It is.
in accordance with.
It makes it seem like it's saying it's now open to people who are dishonorably discharged or something, that's why it's
So I
confusing.
think without the staff report and without further information, it would probably be best to
Table this
one
too.
as well, because they kind of go hand in hand.
Move to
agree.
table.
Second.
Any discussion? If you could call the roll, please. This is to table.
But did you make a motion to approve it first? You have to,
Oh,
Oh, right.
yes, I'm sorry, you're right.
Did we not do
We
that?
did. It was.
We did
moved
before
and
we started
seconded.
talking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Motion was made to,
to approve.
Yeah, we
right,
did that,
but it
and then
was
we
never
talked.
voted
Now
on.
you're gonna take away that.
Yes, it was.
motion.
The motion has to go away and so does the second. The people that made it have to rescind it.
The person that seconded it was Ward. You,
I'll rescind it.
now you can.
Did you motion to table,
Yes.
Counselor White? And who seconded?
I did.
Council Brayback.
If you could call the roll,
Council
please.
Brayback?
I.
Council Lamatina?
Aye.
Council White?
Aye.
Council Ward?
Aye.
Council Conley?
Aye.
Council Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
The next item is Resolution 2022-2023-35 wastewater collection system evaluation, and I would accept a motion to approve that.
So move.
Second.
And Sean Craig is here.
So, over the past, it's been a while since we've worked on our collection system, and I put in for a planning grant through New Hampshire DES. The maximum you can get for the planning grant's $100,000, and we received it. So I sat down with the engineers and looked at what it would take, because we actually looked at the collection system back in 2008 and did work in 2010 and did some work subsequently after that. to see what it would take to really look at our collection system. And to do that, it's $120,000 to really look at everything. And if while we're doing it, we might as well do it all. So the intent of this project is to really give a good look at our system, and then create a responsible way to attack our collection system. Look at how we can get some work done, because some of our collection system dates back to 1800. It's original clay pipes. The only way I know it's 1800 is because the map that I have to go by is from 1901. So what this is going to do, we're going to go through and use cameras and go through our 55,000 feet of sewer pipe and really look at it and evaluate it, and then we'll get a report on it, and then we'll go from there and try and create a responsible way to look at how we can, or what needs to get done at our system, and then how we're going to achieve that. Back in 2008, it was estimated that we had 350,000 gallons a day of infiltration and inflow. Through the works that we've done before we built the wastewater treatment plant, we're probably averaging about 130,000 gallons a day. So we did substantial improvements, but there's other places to look at, and that's what this whole thing is going to do.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments? If you call the roll, please.
Council Brayback?
Aye.
Council Lamatina?
Aye.
Council White?
Aye.
Council Ward?
Aye.
Council Conley?
Aye.
Council Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
The next is resolution 2022-2023-36 sewer cleaning, and I would accept a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
So normally we clean our own sewers. We do so much every year. We're required to do that. We have a permit, a NEPDES permit that's issued by the EPA that requires us to maintain our system. However, we have been short-staffed for the entire fiscal year. So we're just looking to hire somebody out to come in and do it. So that's what it is.
I have a burning question. What exactly does that entail?
So
When I first read this resolution, I was like, I need to know what this means.
So we have a vac truck, and you basically go into the sewers and you jet it out. So you send up, and it goes down and cleans through the sewers. So in other words, what happens is you get buildup from grease and stuff that people have dumped down the lines that shouldn't be there. And you also get some grit and stuff that comes in from the I&I through cracked pipes. And if you don't clean that out, you get blocked pipes, and then all of a sudden it backs up out of manholes. So it is a very important thing to do.
Do we do that annually?
We do so much every year. We actually have a vac truck to do that. However, we don't have the staff now because we can't seem to hire people. So we want to hire somebody to come in and help us out with that. So the money will be coming out of our budget, out of the operating budget for this.
Thank you. Were there any other questions? I didn't mean to jump in, but I had to know.
I appreciate it. It's fascinating. I just had a question about the proposals. You said that the Truax was the lower
Truax was the lower
of the two.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're broken down by a day. So you think this is about a 1-day project then?
No,
it looks like?
This is going to be probably a 7-day project.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so I can see where if you take this 1 day that Green Mountain gave you in times 7.
Yes,
that,
times
yes,
it out.
gotcha,
Yes.
gotcha. Sorry, math.
They actually give us a very good price. Truax, I haven't worked with them before. I've heard good things.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? If you could call the roll, please.
Council Brayback?
Aye.
Council Lamatina?
Aye.
Council White?
Aye.
Council Ward?
Aye.
Council Conley?
Aye.
Council Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
And our next item is Resolution 2022-2023-37, the Lead and Copper Rule Assistance. And I would accept a motion to approve that.
So moved.
I'll second.
So the lead and copper rule, we actually test lead and copper every single year out of 20 homes. It's actually 40 homes. We do 20 each year, and they alternate each year. And what we're looking for is high levels of lead and copper. And where does that come from? That comes from copper pipes. It comes from lead pipes. It's leaches into the water, especially if water sits in the pipe for a long period of time. For the past 30 years that I've been here, we have not failed a lead and copper test, just to let everybody know. This has become a big issue due to Flint, Michigan, and all those places. The town of Newmarket has been aggressively going after lead pipes, and we only know of probably 2 or 3 that are left. But there is a new lead and copper rule where you have to go out and inventory your system. There's quite a detailed list to it. So I worked on to getting a grant with Wright Pierce. We created a scope. We submitted this scope to the DES, and they accepted it. So we get a $50,000 grant to help us out to meet those lead and copper, the first part of the rule. So we're going to meet the rule on someone else's dime.
I like that.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is for the part of the rule that requires the inventory. So this
Yes.
is with Wright Pierce to conduct this inventory of lead and copper pipes. Okay.
So the biggest thing it's going to do for us, it's going to actually help us create our GIS system. So we'll have all the pipes on the system, and then it'll help create a plan to, if there are some out there, to eliminate those. And then there are funds there to actually do that part too. So once we get through this piece, if there's parts out there that we see that has to get done, we'll apply for additional grants to meet the second part of it.
I just had a quick question. You mentioned that you test 20 homes.
Yes.
And 40, and you alternate. So you're testing the same homes on a regular basis?
Yes. Sometimes they change because sometimes a homeowner doesn't want us to do it anymore. We actually have to get approval through the state to which ones we do because they want us to target certain homes. We actually have a very good erosion control plan that we did a few years ago. We actually created this plan and put it into practice, and it's actually helps us meet those requirements.
Great. Any other questions? Call the roll, please.
Counselor Brayback?
Aye.
Counselor Lamatina?
Aye.
Counselor White?
Aye.
Counselor Ward?
Aye.
Counselor Conley?
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Our next item is Resolution 2022-2023-38, and adopt a streetlight pole banner policy. And I would accept a motion to approve that resolution.
So move.
Second.
Are there any questions?
I'm so sorry. At a arts, culture, and tourism meeting a few months ago, it was reported by the chair of that committee that she had met with the town manager about that committee potentially taking over this process, which is not mentioned here anywhere. And so I would potentially like to move to table this just until the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Committee has a chance to meet and town manager gets back from vacation to touch base about, like, is that not happening anymore?
I don't think that that's happening.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think so either, but I guess
That was
I'm
not my-
surprised that it's not, because it sounded like a done deal.
Because we met, the ordinance committee met, and
There's no talk about that.
I don't believe so. Although it rings a bell that maybe
Yeah, I
maybe
feel like
they
our
met.
chair mentioned it in, like, maybe the summertime even, that, like, the town manager was so excited to get this off his plate. Yeah. So I was just surprised, but if you're not and no one else is, we can move forward.
Yeah, it doesn't.
There's no reason we can't vote on it now, and if it turns out, we can then give that power to the Arts and Tourism Commission after, if that's necessary.
I'm not sure that I would be in favor of authority to the arts and tourism. Personally.
I mean, that's not the motion I'm necessarily making. That's just a conversation that had
Right.
been had, and so I was surprised to see this come up as an ordinance or as a resolution. That's all.
It doesn't distinguish who would review, it doesn't distinguish the body that would review the permits. It
It's true.
just,
Are there any other?
The only other
Councilor
comment I
Mateo?
would make, if there was an issue, they could always come back and say, let's modify this.
That's true.
Oh, well, we could certainly table it if people don't feel that there's enough information.
I, as a counselor, do not have any complaints about this ordinance. I just am trying to be a good representative of my committee.
I'm fine with it.
Any other? Seeing no other comments, if you could call the roll, please.
Council Brayback?
Aye.
Council Lamatina?
Aye.
Council White?
Aye.
Council Ward?
Aye.
Council Conley?
aye.
Council Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Then we have one ordinance in the first reading, and that is Resolution 2022-2023-39, naming the park near McAllen Dam Leo P. Fillion Park. Whereas Leo P. Fillion is a lifelong Newmarket resident, raised on Nichols Avenue, and is also a veteran, having served in the U.S. Navy from 1948 to 1952. And whereas Leo P. Fillion is a UNH graduate in mechanical engineering and was plant engineer for the McAllen United Technologies Company, located in the Newmarket Mills from 1966 until 1987. And whereas Leo P. Fillion, as a member of the Newmarket Community Development Corporation, NCDC, he was the liaison dealing with the company then operating in the mills for lease terms, emergencies, technical issues, and other items. Fire alarms, water lines, and heating the plant had ongoing issues, and Leo was NCDC's in-house consultant in such matters. His intimate knowledge, gained from experience in serving on various town governing boards, was essential to NCDC as they worked toward the sale and restoration of the mills. And whereas Leo P. Fillion served on numerous committees, boards, and commissions, and has been instrumental in the progress of our town, including the Select Board, Planning Board, Budget Committee, Zoning Board, Charter Commission, just to name a few. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the Newmarket Town Council hereby names the small tract of town-owned land adjacent to the McAllen Dam, Leo P. Fillion Park. First reading, March 1st, 2023. Was there any correspondence to the council that
Nothing
you're
I'm
aware of? And then any closing comments?
This is going to be your last.
No, I've got one more.
I've got one more. Okay. And I will save it for later.
Not that I'm counting.
Yeah.
I will just remind everyone that voting day is Tuesday the 14th. Polls will be open here at Town Hall from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and hope to see you there. And seeing no other comments, I will consider us adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna leave this meeting.